The cameras are rolling into the bright flames of the future for VFX. Welcome to the VideoForge.net and welcome back. It is time to finally put it all together. The final pieces to the puzzle that makes this Dragon Ball Z Saiyan Space Pod series come to life. I hope you're as excited as I am. Let's recap real quick on what we've done. We've used a simple image of the Earth, added some haze over the edge, made some stars, added a parallel light, which was a custom optical flare attached to it, added some flicker, some camera rotation, also known as a camera roll, to build tension to the scene, and imported not one but two Saiyan space pods into this scene, animating them in 3D space. Give yourself a hand because now we're going to add some final adjustments. Let's go ahead and get started. There's a little fade at the edges of our flare due to the box blur, so we're going to go ahead and scale this layer up. Okay, 105 is good. Okay, let's go to the output in our element space pod layer. Now here, we're going to enhance the multi-sampling and super sampling. You can switch the render mode to preview if your computer can handle this sampling. Now, the multi-sampling reduces any jagged edges that has sharp highlights or reflections, while the super sampling is an additional method for reducing jagged edges. This will allow more detail to be saved and smoothed from any extra data. Let's go ahead and we're going to set the super sampling to 2, and we'll turn on the enhanced super sampling. Only increase your super sampling higher than 2 if your objects are closer to the camera, revealing more detail. Let's go ahead and close the output and open the render settings. We're going to turn on our motion blur. Now notice with the elements motion blur, it is completely independent. You don't have to turn on the comp's motion blur or the layers motion blur. But since we have camera movement, we will be turning them all on later for the other layers. Alright, let's shut off our element layer and let's add some lens dirt over the camera. If you downloaded the project files from part 1, you'll have this dirt lens texture in the file. So let's go ahead and drag this into the composition. And let's go ahead and scale it up. And we're going to set the transfer mode to screen. Now we're going to take the pen tool. We're just going to make a garbage mask around the frame. We're going to only show bits and pieces of lens dirt over the screen. Now I'm going to change the mask from add to subtract. And we're going to feather it to about 165. Then we'll increase the expansion. Now let's bring the opacity down to 70. Now we're going to do something pretty cool with this lens dirt. With our flickering flare and the space pods moving into frame, we're going to animate the opacity of the lens dirt. We do this because the flicker of our flare and the camera facing directly towards it, the flare is going to show imperfections on the camera lens. So let's set a keyframe over the opacity at the beginning of the frame, and let's move the keyframe over a bit. And we're going to set the opacity at the beginning to 30. We're going to move over to about, 5 seconds or so, and we're going to set the opacity to 100. Then we're going to move to the end, and we're going to set it to 60. Another cool technique we could have done with the animation of the layer was to just use a wiggle expression. You all should go ahead and give that a try. Actually, let me know if that works better for this composition. Let's go ahead and select all of our keyframes here, and we're going to set it to easy ease, or just hit F9 on your keyboard. Alright, we're looking good so far. Let's move on. Now, if you followed VideoCopilot.net by Andrew Kramer, you'd notice I have a blue haze layer, which was also used in his Ultra Earth tutorial. It is free for download. This blue haze layer works as atmosphere in space. So let's go ahead and drop that into the comp, and we're going to go ahead and set the layer to screen. Let's add a bit of overall color correction. Let's create a new adjustment layer. Then we'll go to Effect, Color Correction, Curves. Then we're going to go ahead and mess with the RGB a little bit. Let's go ahead and we'll turn our element layer back on. Let's add some film grain on the adjustment layer. Noise actually helps blend the whole scene together, but you don't want to add too much noise. So we're going to set the noise to 3. We'll add another adjustment layer. So layer, new adjustment layer. And we'll just leave it there for decoration. I'm totally kidding. Okay, this layer is actually going to be our master color correction. You're going to see pretty soon. But for now, let's add a vignette. We do this by making a new black solid. Let's go ahead and rename this to vignette, and we'll click OK. We'll select our elliptical mask tool. Then we'll double click on it to apply the mask over the solid. Then we'll set the mask to subtract. And we'll feather the mask. Let's go ahead and increase the expansion. And now we'll bring the opacity down a touch. And we'll bring the overall layer opacity down to 70. Okay, so let's go to our second adjustment layer. Now I'm going to just rename it to color correction. Save your work because this next plugin is quite powerful. Here at The Forge, we have the Magic Bullet Suite. I recommend you purchase this product because their products help projects out exponentially. So we're going to go ahead and go to Effect, Magic Bullet, and Looks. Now notice nothing has happened yet, but it is on our adjustment layer. Let's click on Edit. And what this is going to do is that it's going to open up a new window. Here in the Looks tab, there are tons of different presets you can use to help with overall color correction. You can even create your own preset. This plugin is powerful. Now what we are looking to do is enhance our composition. So here in the enhancements, there are 14 different presets to choose from. We don't want to make our project too dark. Now, you can choose whichever fits your needs, but I'm going for Fountain of Youth. This actually is a good one. Remember, it's that subtle change that we're looking for. Nothing too dramatic. Now, if you can't afford Magic Bullet, a simple color correction, tint, levels, all that will definitely do the trick. Let's go to our stars layer, and we're going to add a curves adjustment to it. Now the stars are just way too visible at the moment. With the bright flare facing the camera, you want to try to make the stars less visible, or at least not a lot of stars being so visible. So we'll just bring the RGB down just a touch. I'm going to go ahead and color code the rest of my layers that go together. I try to be as organized as I can. Let's take our flare layer, earth haze, the earth and the stars layer, and we're going to turn on the motion blur. Now it is time to add some subtle camera shake. Now it's cool that our camera is rotating, but in films we try to show some realism with camera movement. It also helps to suspend your disbelief. So let's go to the point of interest in our camera. We'll alt click on the point of interest and we'll type in wiggle, open parentheses, 2, 8, and close parentheses. So now the camera will have a subtle shake to it, but not too much. It's visible, but just enough not to make you throw up. Like watching Cloverfield. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what we've got. It's actually looking pretty good. I actually love the motion blur on the space pods. Let me just pause that. Look at that motion blur. It's just amazing. Looks so whooshy. Alright, so let's go ahead and add some more camera shake. Now, this camera shake happens from the arrival of the space pods. As they come into frame, we give the camera a little jitter, as if you're being startled. So we're gonna use the wiggler that's actually built in with After Effects. Let's take our whole composition here. We're gonna drop it into the new comp. We'll go back to our space scene. And we're gonna line up where the space pod begins to enter the frame. So let's say around 1.16 seconds, that's right. Then we'll move a few frames more to end the camera shake. So around 2.3 seconds. So let's set a keyframe for the position, and then we're gonna move back to where the pod comes in, and we're gonna set another keyframe. And you know, let's go ahead and just do the same thing for the second pod. So I'm just gonna set a keyframe, and I'm gonna move over, and I'm gonna set a keyframe again for the position. Okay, so what we're doing is telling the Wiggler plugin that we only want the camera to shake within the keyframed positions. Let's select the two first keyframes. Then we're gonna go to Window, and we're gonna click on Wiggler. This brings up the Wiggler tab, and then we'll set the noise type from smooth to jagged. And we'll make sure the dimensions are all being moved independently. We'll set the frequency to 15 and the magnitude to, let's try 25. We'll click apply. With those two keyframes still selected, the Wiggler will automatically apply additional position keyframes, moving each keyframe randomly on the X and Y axis, causing the frame to look like it's actually shaking. Let's go ahead and take a look. Okay, that's not bad. You know what? Let's go ahead and hit Control Z, which will undo the keyframes that was just added, and we're gonna change the magnitude to about 20. Let's try that. And we'll click apply. And let's take a look. All right, now that's a lot better. The magnitude actually helps how hard the frame will shake. I don't want to add too much shake to it because they're just space pods. Now, if we're building an Independence Day ship, that's when I would shake the camera a bit more. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing with the second space pod. We'll select the two position keyframes and just click apply again. Actually looks pretty awesome. All right, let's go ahead, and for the final thing to do, we'll go ahead and scale up the frame. This hides the edges, and let's save our work. And that's it. That's it. Wow. I gotta say, this is my first time building a series on After Effects. I'm usually doing like cosplay tutorials, but I gotta say, this has been extremely fun to record for you all. I hope what information I had to give helped you all out. Go out there and render some Saiyan space pods. Show me your best work, and I'll be more than happy to promote your work on the website at thevideoforge.net. Thank you all so much for watching this mini series. Again, if you have any ideas or suggestions on what you want the next tutorial series to be, feel free to contact me. We here at the Video Forge wish you all a happy new year, and we will see you next time.